So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining today's session. I'm Sean Gibb. I'm the Events and Marketing Manager here at Pro Manchester, and I'm delighted to welcome you to our latest Pro Women discussion. Following today's session, I'll send out a post-event email, which will contain any post-event collateral, any links to where you can find out about other Pro Manchester events and other things to do with our wonderful EDI committee and our Pro Women committee. It'll also contain our feedback form, so it'd be really appreciated if you could take 2 minutes to fill this in. Really does help us. Just a couple of housekeeping points. Please be aware that this webinar is being recorded. Feel free to use the chat function to ask any questions, make comments, observations, and if you could all please just pop your microphones on mute just for the time being, just helps provide the best audio quality. So, without further ado, I will hand you over to Nicola Evans, Partner of Commercial Litigation at Ward Hadaway and Chair of the Pro Women Committee.
Thank you, Sean. And today's session, we are pleased to welcome to our bi-monthly meeting Brenda Warrington, who is leader of Tameside Council, and Pam Smith, Chief Executive at Stockport Council. Now, GMCA set up a Women and Girls Equality Panel to accelerate gender equality, enabling women and girls to live their best life in Greater Manchester. The panel brings together 20 women working to understand issues and inequalities affecting our lives and recognising our experiences of COVID. So what Pam and Brenda are going to do today is to talk a little bit about their work, the issues as they see them. And as usual in our bi-monthly meeting, what we're going to do is we're going to break out into our breakout groups. We're going to look at some of the issues. We can think about how we can feed into this panel and how we can work together so that between Pro Manchester and this panel, we can work towards greater equality. So because we have these two wonderful external speakers, I'm not going to say anything further, but I'm going to hand over to Brenda and Pam to start this session. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm presuming that you want me to go first. Is that correct? Yeah. Well, good morning. I'm Brenda Warrington. As Nicola said, I lead Tameside Council as the executive leader. I'm also very involved with Greater Manchester, the Combined Authority, and as has been said, I'm the portfolio holder for equalities across Greater Manchester. And together with Pam, we've actually been working very, very hard over the last, 18 months or so, I would say, to get a far better equalities set up, let's say, in Greater Manchester. And of course, that would include many areas of inequality, but women and girls certainly being a part of that. And we have a number of equality panels. The GM Women and Girls Equality Panel is just one of a few, but a very, very important one, let me say. And we have some tremendous women that volunteered their services to be part of the panel that have a massive range of experience and expertise, again, across the whole of Greater Manchester. So we can very quickly define the areas of great need, the areas of concern, and the areas where lots of work needs to be done. Now, the panel that was established is actually not new in its concept, let's face it. We know that there have been many equality panels over the years. But of course, we have to, we certainly very much feed on the fact that Manchester as a city and as a region has long been famous for its pioneering women. And of course, one of the ones that everyone knows about will be Emmeline Pankhurst, who fought for women's rights to vote and was very successful despite a lot of opposition. But at the end of the day, I mean, we have that wonderful statue again. I hope you've all had a chance to see it, of Emmeline in St. Peter's Square in Manchester. And we don't forget that there are many women, again, from across the whole of Greater Manchester, who for many, many years, you know, working with Emmeline Pankhurst and after that, that continue to fight the fight for women's rights. Because although we've come a long way for equal opportunities and equality for women, we still have, believe me, a fair distance to go before we are truly satisfied that we have true equality. But we never stop working towards that. The panel that currently is in existence for Greater Manchester, we established only last year, actually, late last year. And that was with the aim of advancing women's equality. And we hope to enable all women and all girls to live their best life in Greater Manchester. And of course, we know, I'm sure every one of the people on this call today will know of the massive diversity across Greater Manchester, of religions, of cultures, of people, and, you know, certainly diversity of privilege, diversity of deprivation. And, you know, we have to address all of those factors when we're looking at how we want to see equality for the future. And women and girls must be able to expect equality of opportunity. And those opportunities, you know, have to be that they start well in life and that they live well in life from a very young age. And of course, that they are allowed to age well, happy in whatever their life choices may be. And we have to ensure that a very different approach is adopted wherever it's necessary and appropriate. It's fair to say now that we have been banging the drum for so long, Pam and I, that people have now got the message, believe me, that equality is very much at the forefront of Greater Manchester's plans. And that's equality in a whole range of different aspects. And the groundbreaking Greater Manchester strategy in 2017, which actually is currently being refreshed as we speak, did set out a vision for Greater Manchester to be a place where there is opportunity for all. And you may be aware, last year we set up an independent inequalities commission that was headed by Kate Pickett. That's Professor Kate Pickett, who is renowned in this field. And she did, along with a team that she picked, she did an amazing 6 months worth of very, very driven work to actually set out a report for us, highlighting and focusing on well-being and reducing inequalities at its heart in Greater Manchester. Now, if you've not had a chance to have a look at that report, I would ask you to make the time at some stage, because there's some very, very important aspects contained in that report that we definitely must not ignore and must take full advantage of the work that was done. Now, the report was commissioned. As I said, it took 6 months from beginning to end for the report to be presented to us. It was presented to us and accepted by the Greater Manchester leaders at a meeting earlier this year. And we've given ourselves 6 months, the same time as that it took the report to be constructed, to actually have some good responses from across Greater Manchester as to all of the recommendations that are contained in the report. There are 17 of them, and they're very, very hard hitting, and they place demands very much on all local authorities across Greater Manchester. And so right now, Pam and I have asked and challenged the leaders across Greater Manchester to look at those 17 recommendations and to report back to us as to what they intend to do to address them, how they intend to address them, and what kind of timeline they might envisage to get some good results from those. So it's one of those things. It's obviously work that is ongoing. I don't think it'll ever end. There'll always be something that we want to add. But I do believe that we've made a tremendous start, and we have brought the need for equality very much to the forefront of everything that we do in Greater Manchester. And we do have, as we said, a number of panels. The Women and Girls panel, from my experience, and Pam and I both attend many of the meetings that are held. The women there, they are so passionate about the different areas of work. It's really, lovely to hear them. But they are highlighting some absolutely appalling situations that must be addressed and must be dealt with for women to feel safe and to feel an equal part of our society. And as you can probably guess, my voice isn't terribly clever at the moment. I've got a real head cold. So what I'm going to do is, if you don't mind, ask Pam if she would come in now to give my throat a little bit of a rest and tell you about the work that the panel have done so far in really a very short time. There are 2 working groups that have been set up with a view to more working groups being established as well. But Pam, if I can please ask you to take us forward with the panel itself and the work that we're doing at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. So the panel decided to focus on a couple of areas. Education, skills and employment, and we'd set up a working group to look at that, and violence against women and girls. So if I just talk about the education, skills and employment, first of all, the group identified a number of key areas, and your views would be really welcome on this, actually, whether these resonate with yourselves. So the areas that we focus on was foundation economy, because there's a recognition that a lot of the low paid work in the foundation economy is done by women. Childcare, and if we're going to move to flexible working, how flexible is that childcare support? Education and skills pathways, where are women and girls not represented in those pathways? Good employment, we've got the Good Employment Charter, which the Mayor launched recently. So, how is that reflective of kind of women's roles in the workplace? Cooperatives and entrepreneurship and self-employment. And then the last but no means least was limiting the impact of COVID-19 on the progress of gender equality, because what we've recognised, and what, as Brenda referred to, the Inequalities Commission and Kate Pickett's report, and what was recognised in that report was that the number of inequalities and the intersectionality of those inequalities that come together that actually weigh down on women. So it can be a combination of gender, ethnicity, low pay, lots and lots of things that women are disadvantaged. And there was a recognition that there is that intersectionality on that. What we've done is we've looked at those issues, and we've started to untangle some of the component parts. And what I mean by that is some things are at national level and where we need to lobby at national level. Some things are at a Greater Manchester level where we have some influence, and some is at local authority level. And obviously there's kind of some regional structures in there, but it's what can we actually do across Greater Manchester together, but what do we need to lobby national government for to change some of the structural and national inequalities as relating to those issues. So we've identified some of those barriers and where we need to lobby and make changes. So if I give you an example, one of the things that comes up, the cost of childcare is seen as a barrier to maintaining training, and so we need to make sure that there's enough of it. So maybe lobbying government on increasing the amount of entitlement to childcare. So maybe it needs to be more than it currently is. So just to kind of give you an indication of some of the issues that have come up. We've also got a working group on violence against women and girls, and we've been making our views known. There's a strategy that GM is developing, gender-based violence strategy. So we've been inputting into that, both as a collective, as a panel, and on an individual basis. And in that women and girls group, we've been looking at gender-based violence, as I've said. We've been looking at the overall safety of women in public spaces. That's come up as an issue. And what we've tried to do is look at a number of issues around victim support, migrant women, no recourse to public funds, and see where are our influencing points around that, and where can we influence some of the policy. And again, it's about what can we do as a collective around GM, and what can we do to lobby government. So what can we change about what we do in Greater Manchester, and involving the districts and involving women's groups across Greater Manchester, and what can we do at national level. We've also been looking at things like the nighttime economy, and how can we influence and get a better awareness of safety issues for women. And one of the things that we've been doing around that is liaising with GMP colleagues to make them aware of how women actually feel. But also we've been talking about what is the education around men. So this isn't, I think what struck me about one of the conversations that we had, and one of our panel members was very, very passionate about it, was pivoting the conversation from this is about doing things for women